Shabbat Shalom.
Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos. There's a game we used to play as we walked through the streets of Jerusalem when we lived there. That as you walked by people on a Friday night or a Saturday morning and everybody else who's walking past you, and you guess if they're a good Shabbos person or a Shabbat Shalom person. And as you got closer, you'd say, good Shabbos, and they'd go, Shabbat Shalom. And you go, I got that one wrong. But it's nice that here, Shabbat Shalom, good Shabbos. What a beautiful night to be here. A beautiful night to escape the cold outside, the frigid weather that we have in Los Angeles and Ventura County today. We're dipped below 60 degrees today. We can't believe it. So we're so happy that you're here to join us, along with Katya becoming bat mitzvah this weekend. She is so ready for this moment. She is so prepared for this moment. And we look forward to her singing with us and praying with us. It's always a pleasure to have Rabbi Rachel here. Very glad to be able to share the bima with her. And for the first time ever, being able to say that we're so lucky to be able to share the bima today with Grammy Award winner Mariano.
Two-time
Grammy Award winner Mariano Dugatkin, who just this week won 2 Latin Grammy Awards. So it's been a very exciting week. I know! We'll check in with all of you during the service just to see what was the highlight of your week. Don't think you have to compete with winning major awards. Whatever it is that made you feel good this week, made you feel excited this week, we look forward to you sharing that with us. For now, we're in the Blue Siddur with the poem Yedid Nefesh. We're on page 12 in that Siddur.
We're going to sing the first 2 stanzas together, and then we're going to kind of sink into the melody a bit with some yada-dai-dai-dai-dais. So however the Spirit so moves you, whether it's with words or yada-dais, please join in when you feel so moved. Yedid nefesh av harachaman mishoch avtach el retzonach yarutz avtach kemo hayam yishtachaveh el mul hadarach terav lo yedidutach minofet tzuf v'chotza'am Adonai ziv ha'olam nafshi cholat ahatecha ana elna rifana la beharot la noam zivecha az titchazek v'titrape v'hayta la simchat olam yada-dai-dai-dai-dai 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 yada-dai-dai-dai yada-dai-dai-dai-dai 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 You know, sometimes the translations don't quite get it right. But even though this one isn't exactly a direct translation, the way that our little blue books translate the first line of Yedid Nefesh, God of the strong and of the weak, before you, even the strongest are weak. The idea that if you all ever felt a love or a happiness that makes you feel kind of weak in the knees, Yedid Nefesh, as we often talk about, is about that dear feeling, that love that we can feel for these divine moments and for God. and it can make all of us strong or weak in the knees.
We turn forward now to page 16 for the words of Shalom Aleichem. We encourage you each week to turn to the people around you, because this prayer, this poem, says that we welcome in the angels of Shabbat. And we can't welcome in the angels of Shabbat without welcoming each other. I did a class a couple of years ago on audacious welcoming, they called it. How to greet people at the synagogue like Colin is doing with great audacity. And I had a question for them as to, first of all, I don't know what that means. And second of all, when I pulled into the synagogue where this conference was happening, I couldn't find the entrance. Then I found the entrance, and I pressed all the buttons, and nobody buzzed me in. And I thought, well, this is a funny way to have audacious welcoming, where you can't find the entrance, and then you can't get into the building, then you can't find the room once you're there, then your name tag is misspelled. This is a really interesting, audacious welcoming. But maybe we could try it here. Turn to the people near you. If you know them, say hello again. Say, how was your dinner? Say, it's nice to see you. If you don't know them, introduce yourself. Give your name. If they're far away, say, hi, Holly and Frank. There's nobody quite next to you right now.
Hello, Rabbi. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Oh, we have some crossing of the aisles.
Yes. Page 16, we welcome in the angels of Shabbat with Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ruachem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzidchem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
All right.
Page 22. Lechu neranana, lechu neranana, lechu neranana, l'Adonai. Lechu neranana, lechu neranana, lechu neranana, l'Adonai. Naria, letzor yishenu, nekad mafanav betzoda. Naria, letzor yishenu, bizmirot naria lo. Lechu neranana, lechu neranana, lechu neranana, l'Adonai. Lechu neranana, lechu neranana, lechu neranana, l'Adonai.
The second line of Lechu Neranana says, let us draw near to God with thankfulness. Imagine if what we're doing here today isn't just to ask God for things. People see prayer so often as turning to God, begging for things and asking for things. But what if it's just a chance for us to show gratitude, for us to realize that every day we should be grateful for all that we have? We invite up my student, Sophia Lissobe, who it says here is a relative somehow of Katya, to come up and lead us in an English reading If you want to follow along, she'll be in our blue Siddur on page 11 at the bottom of the page.
With thankful hearts, we have come together tonight to join in worship and celebration. We are grateful for the impulse to worship, to reach beyond ourselves, to cultivate a mood of reverence and awe. We are grateful for the opportunity to worship, to assemble with our fellow Jews in accordance with the demands of our tradition and the dictates of our hearts and minds. We are grateful for the freedom to worship, to reaffirm our beliefs and values as individuals and as a community. We are grateful for the ability to worship, for the health and strength to come into God's presence, to acknowledge our blessings, and to seek greater meaning in our lives. We are grateful for the days which have come and gone, and grateful for the hopes we cherish for the days which lie ahead.
Thank you very much, Sophia. You may go join your parents back down there. Yasher, Koach. It's beautiful to think that the point of religion is to give us the language to show gratitude. You can show gratitude in any language, but sometimes we forget. And what Judaism does, what many religions do, is they say, here is a book filled with ways to say thank you. Thank you for all of the good things that I have. Thank you for the food. Thank you for the beautiful smells. Thank you for the fact that my legs are working today and that I'm able to breathe today, and all the different things that we can show gratitude for. Religion is our language to be able to show appreciation for the world. So thank you for that piece of poetry, Sophia. Page 30 with Romamu. Mm-hmm. We're on the bottom of page 30. I forgot to say, if you're joining us in the online Siddur, there's an online Siddur. If you're joining us online, we're on page 20 in that red Siddur with the words of Romamu.
רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו. כי Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu. Let's try it again. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishtachavu Lehar Kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishtachavu Lehar Kodsho. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu. Last two times. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu. That song's really the key to having a good Shabbat.
Oh, no.
This is why I'm becoming a rabbi.
That's officially a rabbi joke. There's a song on J Kids Radio, which is a wonderful little app. If you ever want to just sit in the car and listen to Jewish kids music, it's a little app on the phone called J Kids Radio, and there's a song on there called Rabbi Jokes. And we could add that one to the Rabbi Joke song. Yes, we invite Katya to join us up here at the table. We're on page 38. If you're joining us online, we're on page 23 with the words of Lecha Dodi.
Dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Shamar bezachor be'edibor echad hishmi'anu el ha'meuchad Adonai echad. Shemo echad l'shem multiferet ve'eli tila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. מחשבה תהילה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. מקדש מלך עיר מלוכה קומיצי, מתוך אפיך רב לשבת, במקבך והוא יעמוד עלייך אלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התנערי מעפר כמי לבשי בגדי, תפארתי על יד בן ישי, בית הלך מקורבה אל נפשי, גאה לה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי כי ברך, קומי אורי אורי, שיר דברי כבוד אדוני, עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לא תבושי ולא תקומי, מה תשכחי ומה תמי יחסו, עניי עמי ונבנתה עיר אל תילה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. והיו למשיסה שוסייך ורחקו כל מבלייך, יסיס עלייך אלוהייך כמשוש חתן על כלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. ימין ושמאל תפרוצי ואת אדוני, תעריצי על יד איש, בן פרצי ונזמך ונגילה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום עטרת בלגן בשמך, ובצחול תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
You may be seated. Katya, that was beautiful. Thank you so much for leading us in that. You can go take a seat next to Betty for a minute. We turn forward to page 42, 4 lines from the bottom of the page on 42, the poem Tzadik Katamar, where we're online. If you're online, we're on page 28 at the red caret.
Tzadik Katamar yifrach ke'erez balvanon yizkei shetzolim beveit Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu od yenuvon beseva deshenim verananim lehagid ki yashor Adonai tzori velo avlata bo. If you want, you can put your blue books down for a second. I have a question I'd like to ask you, and this will be audience participation, don't worry. And before I ask the question, there's not a right or wrong answer. Or at least, I don't know the answer to this question. The question is, what happens when we pray? What happens to us? What happens to the world? What happens to God? Anything. What happens when we pray? Think about that for a second, because as I said, I will want some audience participation. And I'm going to offer you a short anecdote before I ask for your feedback. When I was converting to Judaism, part of the process is that you go before a panel of rabbis called a Beit Din. They ask you questions. It's not really like the SATs or something where, if you fail a certain number, you don't get to be Jewish. It's more that they just want to know that you care and that you want to learn and that you love the Jewish people. And one of the rabbis there asked me what I thought happens when I pray. And I was like, I'm not sure. And she said, no, really, imagine you're at the hospital and someone you love is sick and you're praying. Why are you praying? And so I thought I would be really smart, and I threw the question back to her. I thought that was the Jewish thing to do. And I said, why? What do you think happens when you pray? Do you think that God's going to go zap and make the person better? This was a rabbi, mind you. One of my favorites, in fact. And she said, no, I don't believe that that's what happens when I pray. But I hope I'm wrong. So when I'm at the hospital, I'm praying as hard as I can in the hopes that maybe that will be the way that it works. Now, I said there's not a right or wrong answer. So, what I'd like you to do, earlier in the service, Rabbi Averbach encouraged you to say hello to your neighbors. For about 2 minutes, I'd like you to turn to these new besties on either side of you, groups of whatever feels natural. You can also just turn to the person that you showed up with, or just think, and share either what you think happens when you pray, or maybe what you don't think happens when you pray, or maybe what somebody told you happens when you pray, maybe what a song says happens when you pray. All right, so about 2 minutes. I'm going to turn around, and chat with these lovely individuals on the bima, and we'll come back together, and I'll ask for a couple of volunteers to share the wisdom you have gleaned. What happens when we pray? Finish the thought you're on, or as my teachers would have said in school, pencils down. All right. I'm going to ask for a couple volunteers, but I'd actually like to start here on the bima with our bat mitzvah, Katya, who here can run around with a maybe. So Katya, what do you think happens when we pray?
It might not be for the reaction of what happens after we pray, but we feel closer to God. We know that we might be talking to God or asking for his help or thanking him, or he might not be listening because we don't really know, but we feel closer to him, like a special connection, or like we're following in his footsteps or doing something that he might notice.
Thank you very much. I especially like that because of the word Corbon, which, what does Corbon mean? Anyone know? Sacrifice. So in temple times, a Corbon was a sacrifice. But our prayer services are actually modeled after the schedule of the Korbanot, the sacrifices. And Corbon, literally, the root means to draw closer. A Corbon is something to bring you closer to God. So the idea of talking, of being in conversation, that when you pray, you're having a conversation. Yes. Somebody else. What happens when we pray? Anything? Yeah. Somebody. Anybody? Nothing happens when we pray.
All right, Joel has an idea.
So it's a bit therapeutic for us. It lets us have our emotions have a place to go, because we have nothing else to look for, to grasp onto. So there's God for us, so we reach out.
Yeah.
And it's therapeutic for us as well.
It can be very therapeutic. It can kind of provide a vessel or a framework for all of these human emotions that we go through. Excellent. So that's something that happens. What else? I think, Candy maybe?
Our group came up with two things that happen when you pray. One is that it gives you an inner strength to cope with things, and the other one is that it connects you to the larger body of the Jewish community.
So when you pray, it connects you to the Jewish people, and it also makes you stronger. Excellent. Let's do one more. One more.
Eva.
Well, it gives me kind of a peace of mind and know that I did whatever I could do about a situation, and I know it might not fix anything, but it still makes me feel closer to God.
Awesome.
Thank you, Eva.
Anyone else really pressing, definitely want to say something?
Nicely done.
Okay. So the good news is you're all right. You're all correct. The bad news is that I have no authority to say that because I really don't know. But there's a reason why I wanted to ask this question specifically this week. The Torah portion this week is Vayishlach, which literally means, and he sent. This is one of our most famous stories. It's when Jacob's about to reunite with his brother Esau. And if you recall from last week and the week before, Jacob had, stolen the birthright from Esau and fled for his life. And there was a little bit of animosity between the two of them. And our parsha begins with Vayishlach Yaakov Malachim Lefanav. Vayishlach, and he sent Yaakov, Jacob, the guy doing the sending, Malachim in front of him. Malachim. What he sent were Malachim. Now, different translations translate this word differently. It either means messenger, that Jacob sent messengers ahead of him to his brother in the hopes that maybe his brother wouldn't kill him, or it means angels. Vayishlach Yaakov Malachim Lefanav, and Jacob sent forth angels ahead of him. In fact, I looked, I'm a rabbinical student, so in my house I have literally piles of Torahs and Chumashim and Sidurim. I looked up 5 different translations of this verse. 3 of them translated it as angels. 2 of them translated it as messengers. And so I decided to focus on the angels version because Jacob is not God. Jacob is human like us. And so why does Jacob get to order around angels and send angels to do his bidding? Why does Jacob get to send angels to check and see if his brother is angry at him? Here's my theory. When I pray, and this is inviting you into what happens when I'm saying my Amidah up here. When I pray, I don't know exactly what happens, but the deepest wish of my heart is what I'm trying to express to the universe. I'm trying to put as many good vibes out as possible, as much hope as possible. When I pray the Mishabera, I'm wishing with every wishbone in my body and praying with every pray bone in my body that these people who I care about will be healed. And I think that's actually exactly what Yaakov was doing. I think that when Jacob sent forth those angels, and then his brother showed up and didn't kill him, that's actually a way of saying that the deepest wish of Jacob's heart was reconciliation, that the deepest pain that he had ever known was the pain of seeing how much he had disappointed his father, hurt his brother, and caused a rift in his family. The angels that Jacob sent out were prayer. I can imagine him alone, having sent his cattle and his sheep, his wives and his children ahead of him, right before he wrestles with God. Praying, hoping, wishing for peace. As I said in the beginning, there's not a right or wrong answer. But take this as a challenge. In the name of Jacob, Yisrael, who wrestled with God, choose a prayer tonight. Any prayer. Could be a prayer from our service, could be a personal prayer when you're at home. And when you're praying that prayer, try and imagine what it would be like if there were angels carrying your prayer forth. What would that do to the world? What impact would it have? Or what would it do for you personally? There's not a right or wrong way to do it, but I'd love to hear how it turns out if anyone wants to report back. Shabbat Shalom.
It's beautifully said. Thank you, Rabbi Rachel. Those who are able, please rise. We invite Katya and Betty and Jennifer and Sophia and any of the other women in their family or friend group to come up here and say the bracha, the blessing over the candles. We lit these candles before Shabbat began, and now they are tapering down. They're going down. Anybody who'd like to join us up here to add a little blessing. Whatever that blessing means to you, come on up here. Careful of the cords. Lehadlik ner, shel Shabbat. Just take a moment to let that prayer linger in the air. We invite Helene and Michael Golub to join us up here on the bima. Everyone else can have a moment and go back to where they were before. Remain standing for the words of Baraku. The evening service begins on page 50, page 50, or if you're joining us online, we're on page 39 for the words of Baraku. We invite Michael and Helene to open up the ark for us.
Baruch et Adonai Mevorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed.
You may be seated.
Uma'avir yom u'mevir laila, mavdil ben yom u'ben laila. Adonai Teva'ot Shemo, El Chai V'Kayam Tamid Yimloch Aleinu Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai,
Baruch Shemo.
Amari V'Aravim.
Amen. Page 52, or online page 40, Ahavat Olam.
Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha Ahavata. Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadeta. Al ken Adonai Eloheinu, b'shochveinu u'bekomeinu, nasiach bechukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, u'b'mitzvotecha, le'olam va'ed. Ki hem chayenu ve'orech yameinu, uvahem neged yomam v'layla.
Ve'avatcha al tasir minenu le'olamim. Baruch Ata Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Amen.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'havta Etz Adonai Elohecha, bechol levavcha, uvechol nafshecha, uvechol me'odecha, ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele, asher anochi metzavecha, hayom al levavecha,
ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. Adonai Elohechem Emet.
Towards the bottom of page 60, we have the words of Mi Chamocha. If you're joining us online, we're on page 44.
מי כמוך פעלים אדוני, מי כמוך נעזר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה, זה אלי אנו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ינאי 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 nay 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 nay. ונאמר כי ודאי את יעקב וגואלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני קהל ישראל.
Amen. On page 62, you can take my microphone. The words of Hashkivenu, we invite up Katya and Rabbi Rachel to lead us in the words of Hashkivenu.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamitenu malkeinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamitenu malkeinu l'chaim.
Ushmor tzedkeinu uvoreinu lechaim u'shalom me'ata ve'ad olam.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu malkeinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu malkeinu l'chaim. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ברוך אתה אדוני, הפורש סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כמו ישראל, ועל ירושלים.
On page 64 is Vishamru.
Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
On page 66, Katya is going to lead us in Kaddish.
Yitbarach v'yishabach.
Oh,
Yikadal v'yikadash shemei rabbah.
Amen.
V'amal divrach yurtei v'amlich malchutei.
Mechayechon uvyomechon uv'chayedecho beit Yisrael. Ba'agala, ba'agala, uv'yizman kariv v'imeru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach, le'olam olam me'amaya, yitbarach.
Yitbarach v'yishabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitrumam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha.
Berechu
Le'elah min kol birchata v'shirata
tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran b'alma.
ve'imeru.
Amen.
On page 68, the evening Amidah begins. If you could all rise as you are able, this is a time for personal prayer, personal thoughts. Use the words on the page and or the words in your heart. And we'll come back together in a few moments. When you've finished, you may be seated. We are gifts and we are blessings. We are history in song. We are hope. We are healing. We are learning to be strong. We are words and we are stories. We are pictures of the past. We are carriers of wisdom, not the first and not the last. L'dor vador nagi god lecha. L'dor vador we protect this chain from generation to generation. L'dor vador these lips will praise your name. L'dor vador, these lips will praise your name.
While still in this deep moment of prayer, we sing a Mishabera, a prayer of healing, turning to the God who blessed our ancestors to bring blessings to us. In the inside back cover of your Siddur, the words of Mishabera. Hold on tight to those names of people you're thinking of tonight who need some healing.
Mishabera avotenu mekor habrachot find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishabera imotenu mekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Page 86, or if you're joining us online, page 54. But in our Siddur, page 86, Katya leads us in Kaddish Shalom.
Yikadal v'yikadash merabah.
Amen.
Ve'amal divrach yirtei, ve'amlich malchutei, b'chayachon u'v'yamechon, u'v'chayedecho beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kari ve'imeru.
Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevorach, Le'olam Olam Le'olmaya, Yitbarach.
Yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitba'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha.
Brichu.
Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran ve'alma ve'imeru.
Amen.
Tikabal tzeliton, v'avton dechol Yisrael, kadama v'hon devishamaya ve'imeru.
Amen.
Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'hayim aleinu ve'el kol Yisrael ve'imeru.
Amen.
Oh, say shalom bimramav, huya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'el kol Yisrael ve'imeru.
Amen. At this point during our service, we say a special blessing to sanctify the day. And when we sanctify a moment, either a wedding or a day like Shabbat or other moments of blessing, we say it over a glass of grape juice or wine. And so we ask those of you who are able to please rise. We'll give the strongest wine to Katya, the medium wine to me. We're on page 90. Zecher litziat Mitzrayim, kivanu v'acharta, ve'otanu kidashta, b'kol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha, ve'ahava uvratzon, Inchaltanu, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen. Take a sip and pass it around. We do the Kiddush and Motzi up here, so when you go into the next room in just a couple of minutes, into Spiegel Hall, to have a little bite to eat, you can go right into it, because we've said the blessings here. We can carefully take out the challah. Da-da-da. Oh, fresh baked. All right. Sophie and Katya, you know this one? We should have a couple sauce options, actually. We'll remain standing for the words of Aleinu. The rest of the list of base can go back to the front pew while we invite up Lynn and Larry Dosey to come up and open up the ark for us. The grandparents.
Mishabera la'adon hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoye ha'aratzot, velo samanu mishbechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam, ve'anachnu korim umishachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Shehu noten shamayim ve'yosed haaretz, u'Moshe v'karo b'shamayim imna'al, v'shinatu zo, v'shinatu zo, v'govei meromim, hu Eloheinu enod, emet malkeinu efesu lato, kakatu b'torato, v'dat hayom v'asevota, elevarecha, ki Adonai hu ha'Elohim, b'shamayim ima'al, v'hal ha'aretz, v'hal ha'aretz mitahat enod, enod. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. It's very sweet. It's with sadness this week. Our community notes the passings of Sidney Adler and Billy Agranoff. Sidney was the dean, I believe, of Moore Park College, and a PhD in. He got his PhD writing about the works of Isaac Bashevis Singer. So maybe in his memory, those of you who would like to dive into the works of Isaac Bashevis Singer, some great stories. Isaac Bashevis Singer won a Nobel Prize in Literature, and so to study his work in honor of Sidney would really be wonderful. and Billy Agranoff, who helped people get to where they needed to go in his varied life. He worked in a family dry cleaning business where he was responsible for, among other things, Michael Jackson's gloves, dry cleaning those, as well as being a taxi driver and being a model boat enthusiast. So this week we note the passings of both of them with great sadness. In addition, this week, our community notes the yahrzeits of Rose Haskell, Stubby Kay, Doris Levine, Becky Katz, Julia Redholtz, Norman Jerome Schnur, Leo Silver, Sylvia Yale, Stephen Bass, Betty Becker, Samuel Groden, Blanche Levy, Cyril Mahler, Francine Raylanu, Nathan Tattleman, Gordon Wenner, David Alpert, Ruth Beaudry, Susan Benjamin, Seal Lazarus, Ruth Levin, Rabbi David Lieber, Paul Moss, Harold David Pashkowitz, Rhoda Simowitz, Herman Hyde Tanchain, Rose Cohen, Ted Einstein, Morris Grossman, Harold Kagan, Max Leitner, Gertrude Mezzi, Eva Pivnik, Ruben Dugatkin, Harry Katz, Alexander Mayer, Lisa O'Brien, Marshall Pollock, Robert Salme Schreier, Brana Engler, Samuel Honigman, Joseph Lerner, Dorothy Bauman Shepard, Herman Sturman, Leela Yudkovic, Erwin Stackel, and Paul Moore. May their memories be beautiful ones to those who knew them and who loved them. I'd like to invite those who are here for a yahrzeit. If they're interested in sharing a word of who they're here for, I'd welcome that. We'll start. Bonnie, did you want to share with us? I don't know if she can. All right, we'll see. Maybe and maybe not. Was there anybody else who wanted to share while we waited? All right. Anne.
Would you like a microphone?
That way we can hear you online as well.
This is the yahrzeit of my father-in-law, Herman Sturman. And I just want to talk about something that happened with me in regard to Herman, with my husband Elliot and me. When we got married, we moved into a house that Herman owned Herman and Gladys is sitting here, they owned as a rental. And we actually paid rent. And so we lived there for a few years, and as some of you may remember, in the early 90s, the housing market went bust. And Herman saw that this was his moment to sell us the house. He made sure to sell it when it was at its low, which was unbelievably generous. And that generosity carried on for all the years that I knew him. He just repeatedly made sure that he could take care of his kids in the best way. And of course, at the time, I thought it was all Herman who did this, but I'm realizing it was also Gladys. And she has, in fact, carried on with that kindness and generosity.
Thank you, Anne. And thank you, Gladys, for being so generous. Were there those who wanted to share? I know we'll hear a few more during the week. People can share at any of our minyanim. Okay, that works. For those in a period of mourning, or if you are observing a yahrzeit of a loved one, you are welcome to rise and join with us for the words of Kaddish. We're on page 124 in our Siddur. And if you're joining us online, we're on page 58. Yit Gadal, Viet Kadash, Shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divara kirute ve'amlich malchute. Be'chaye chon uvyome chon uvachaye dechol beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uvizman kariv ve'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lamei omaya. Yit barach v'yishtabach v'yit pa'ar v'yit romam v'yit naseh. V'et hadar, v'et alev, v'et halal, shemei dekudasha brichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shamaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. You may be seated. Thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you, Rabbi Rachel, for teaching us tonight, in addition to singing, and two-time Grammy Award winner Mariana Dugatkin for playing piano for us tonight.
That's
so
your
beautifully.
full name now.
That's right. That's how there was going back many years when the movie The Green Mile came out, and there was all this Oscar buzz for, I'm now forgetting his name, the actor who played the prisoner in the movie, and he asked Tom Hanks, when you're introduced, are you ever introduced, like, are you always introduced as Oscar winner Tom Hanks? And Tom Hanks said, no, they say two-time Oscar winner Tom Hanks. And so how beautiful. Katya, incredible. I so look forward to tomorrow morning, 9:30, for you to continue what you've started here tonight. Betty, you did some beautiful work. I mean, I'm sure that Michael and Jennifer and Sophia and the rest of the family had something to do with it too, as well as Katya, but really beautiful. You all have the handouts. You got them on the way in that our wonderful usher, Colin, handed you on the way in, or pointed you towards on the way in. Has all of our upcoming events. Some things that aren't in there is our adult education is gearing up for some new things. We'll have an Israel class. We'll have a Hebrew class. For those of you who want to learn some Hebrew or want a refresher on Hebrew, it's a great way in an easy setting with friends to learn our language. So there's a little bit less of a barrier when it comes time for prayer and other things. Or if you're just going to Israel, you want to learn a few more words, you can learn Hebrew in that way. And we have, I'm going to announce it even though it's not yet confirmed, but it's still exciting for me, is there's an author who I happen to love, whose name is Shalom Auslander, who's going to be coming here and speaking. Shalom Auslander wrote such books as Hope, a Tragedy, and Foreskin's Lament. Foreskin's Lament, and Beware of God, and other humorous Jewish pieces of work. So if you're interested in looking into him, hopefully all of the lawyers sit down and sign the paperwork so we can come out here and speak for one night, however that works. I have a lot more things coming up that are, most of it's in the handout, with pre-Thanksgiving and Thanksgiving, and Hanukkah is in just a couple of days. If any of you have gift ideas.
My Hanukkah sweater showed up today.
Oh, your Hanukkah.
I got a Hanukkah sweater today. It says Meowzel Tov and has cats on it.
That's fantastic. I've got my Hanukkah stuff. I got it. It's very exciting. I mentioned before, if anybody had good things to share, and we're at the end of the service, anybody have good things they want to share with us today? A positive thing that happened this week that they're looking forward to in the week to come, something good. And if you're online and you press the button to raise your hand, there's a chance I'll see you. Logan, you got 100 on your math and science quizzes. Mazel tov to Logan, that's very exciting. Can anybody beat that? Ronnie? Right. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Friends of ours friends and congregants had a baby, and the Brit Milah, the bris was today, and the baby's name, it'll go out in an email, is Jacob Simon Carmona. So looking forward to getting to hold at some point this brand new baby, the newest member of our congregation. Rabbi Rachel?
Just sharing because I had shared the journey with the congregation as a whole, but I finally had the follow-up visit with my surgeon this week after my surgery a month ago, Wednesday, and it was excellent news. They got all of it. It is all out, and my prognosis is excellent. So thank you all for your support, and that was, I'm smiling a lot behind the mask right now. So.
That's fantastic. That's wonderful. Anybody else have anything that they want to share? A happy thing? Jennifer. What? That's wonderful. And so Mazel Tov to the Lisbeth family. Very exciting things. If you have more to share, please let us know after services. You can find me, Rabbi Rachel, anybody who looks official or has a gold name tag. Or they look like they should be wearing a gold name tag. It's okay, it's fine. Come up, introduce yourself if you'd like to. If you have any questions about what you saw here tonight, let us know. We'll have one final song here tonight.
No, Osei Shalom.
Osei Shalom. God, help us bring peace down to earth.
Osei Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Osei Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Osei Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'yakol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'yakol Yisrael. Osei shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Osei shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Osei shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'yakol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'yakol Yisrael.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbos.
Please join us in Spiegel Hall. Goodbye, online people. Absolutely. If I don't see you in the morning, we'll see you in the morning. Hopefully see you in the morning.
Sean. Yeah, that's just Mariano. He does just what he does. Dream job is literally, it was completely up to me in the world would be Germany, but that's not, unless I like.
She was born in Germany.
Oh. And I miss Germany a lot, but I don't have that back there. So I actually met today with the Urban Association representative. We were talking there are like 80 jobs open this year for like 30 graduates. So we're all going to get, like, no one's worried about it, so that's good. So she said that there were, you know, New Jersey, New York, New Hampshire, that area. That's probably where I love Susan's, I love it. Because it makes me like enjoy the summer more. I feel like.
How about Chicago?
Chicago? Oh, I would be okay with Chicago. Milwaukee would be like well, something on like the Great Lakes would be okay with me too. I like the coast.
Chicago's beautiful.
Chicago's great. Everything on the Great Lakes, I like, and I have family in Michigan.
I've never been there, but,
So, okay,
but I
well,
saw so many things about Chicago.
Also, just to say to you as well, because we were just talking about this, I was just saying that I want to connect with more Jews who speak Spanish, and also German if you know any who speak German. But I just, it makes me happy every time I even hear like a sentence of Spanish between the two of you. And I would love to meet other Jews who speak Spanish. So if you guys have, I don't know who you, and I mean, I know other because I'm everything. LAJA. All right.
And there's another one that is
okay with people who aren't Argentinian who want to just hang out with them? Yeah, they usually do events for the generation or new groups. I don't know.
I can't, right?
Yeah. What?
May I take a picture?
Yeah, you do. Grande Goya. Also, if you watch,
She's the longest.
not God.
Okay, hang on a second.
You should see the way she was
Sí,
staring.
sí. Hicieron muy rápido. Sacaste fotos.
You see the love there? Every time he smiles at her, she's like, well, if you're ever around Bel Air and you maybe see.
Pensar que un día por ahí toca el piano.
First time she took me to the piano. She played, like, in Spanish, to play the piano and to touch the piano is the same. So he said, maybe one day she'll actually play the piano, like tocar the piano.
I had
Like,
a
well, this
beautiful
is the first time she
Steinway.
touched the piano.
I had a beautiful, gorgeous Steinway at my mom's house. We sold the house and we sold the piano. To sell.
Or you could keep it. Okay.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for you guys.
Pleasure.
These are so beautiful, and I'm so glad that you both are here. And Katya gets to have a bat mitzvah with you. It's wonderful.
She's a gem.